And we're into the last video section of this course. Recap of the process. UX review. UX has a process we should follow. We're going to start just taking a look back at the prototyping and design process that we've been following throughout this course. We're going to just recap a little bit to talk about why these things are important, how we've gone about practicing them, and how the process that we've done is valuable over time. We'll review design thinking quickly. We'll talk about how design thinking is inherently, and prototyping at its core is inherently iterative, and how the iterative cycle is really related to agile development, and how better design tools help us build better process and speed up. So let's get started. Now, throughout this course, you've been kind of building on your thinking, engaging in learning software, understanding the relationship of what you're going to be designing to. And what makes UX and UI solutions so interesting is that we really want to learn and design and learn as we design, right? We make some things, we make some assumptions about our users, we think about who our user is, and then we apply these human-centered methodologies from our research into our prototypes, into our testing, and into the outcomes that we then iterate. Now, the reason this has become really important is that product design and the process that we follow is learned over time, but we can continue to improve the design thinking cycle by adding it into, or by communicating why even just the relationship of prototyping and software is connected or linked to this larger cycle of the design thinking process. Because without empathy for your user, it's really hard to define what that need is without coming up with some ideas for how a list app works or whatever that is, or even iterating on those ideas further. Now, the relationship of prototyping and refining this stage really allows us to go through the process over and over again. And every time you're iterating on a cycle, it doesn't go all the way back to the beginning, not necessarily, but it is connecting or validating why these tests are so essential, why we continue to refine and polish our prototypes as they move through the stages of the output. We've looked at a couple versions of this, whether it's the double diamond thinking process or the design thinking process of empathy, define, ideate, prototype, and test. But the role here is that it is a cycle. The human-centered nature of it goes around and around and around. And as we continue to prototype and find the right solution through testing, we continue to refine why we do it in the first place and answer our users' problems. Now, this iterative cycle that we've been engaging in is essential to the core tenets of why we prototype in the first place, but also how we are constantly learning and constantly making improvements to, luckily, digital hardware, right, or digital software. And the value in working with things that are inherently code is that, you can make changes. It's not like a physical product where the minute it makes it into the world, it's hard to iterate it. Well, I mean, you can, but it's pretty much set in stone once you have the chair manufactured. Now, for us, the software that we make and the solutions that we come up with, even in a list app or these kind of things that are there, allow us to then critique, sketch, and present, and then continue to validate and prototype the ideas as it moves along. We've talked about the relationship of our prototypes inside the realm of software development, right? Whether it's iterative design and it's collaborative on a agile cycle, and you have a daily review and you have a backlog of features that you're trying to create. But the deliverable at its core is the process. It's not just a feature. The feature is only as valuable as it is connected to your understanding of having empathy for your user and defining your user's needs and linking that user's needs to the business, and then allowing that to be quickly produced, prototyped, and tested by your users and validated. Now, we use these tools that we've been engaging throughout this course of Envision, Sketch, Principle for Mac. There's many others. We've kind of just been exploring using these as our tools, because the more you stay within the methods, the faster you get at production, the value of doing that. However, there might be other tools that come along. So remember that it's not the tool that makes the iterative process work. Though it is enhancing it or helping it along, it is the role of prototyping and of iterative design is held by the person making those decisions, by the UX designer who chooses to test it with their users early and often, and make sure that the right solution that they're putting in front of their users is actually validated through the process. Now, these tools that we've been engaging in are useful over time because you get better and you'll get faster at them. But if you're not practicing the process, you're just engaging in, the polishing of a knife that you're not going to use, right? So why engage in that if you don't have an answer? Now, our role here is to continue to use these products and services and goods that are there to make our ideas tangible, and then we can learn from them faster. Because the role of what we do in our prototyping is to continue to add value. Now, we've looked at this before. All of our solutions are in the life cycle of our users and what we're trying to solve. And if we can make them usable and useful and findable and credible and accessible, and then maybe even desirable, our users will continue to come back to us and trust us to create and use the tools that we have. So let's go into understanding, and let's relate that why we do this and why we're continuing to extend our value is because experienced prototypes are solving problems for our users, and prototypes are essential to the design and development process.